I'm Bernard Norcott-Mahany. I work at the Blueford branch of the Kansas City Public Library. I celebrate National Poetry Month, which is April, every year by reading poems aloud. For April 2025, I am reading from Edgar Lee Masters' book, Spoon River Anthology. This is a collection of poems that was published as a collection. The idea that we're supposed to have is that we are in Spoon River, in the cemetery, which is on the hill, and that we were walking through the cemetery, looking at headstones, and then we see a name, and then that person speaks to us. So that's sort of the setup. I'm reading 3 or 4 poems each time, I will not get through all the poems by the end of the month for appearance, but I will read the whole book for a book discussion that I will be taking part in at the end of the month. Theodore the Poet. As a boy, Theodore, you sat for long hours on the shore of the turbid Spoon, with deep-set eye staring at the door of the crawfish's burrow, waiting for him to appear, pushing ahead, first his waving antennae like straws of hay, and soon his body, colored like soapstone, gemmed with eyes of jet. And you wondered in a trance of thought what he knew, what he desired, and why he lived at all. But later your vision watched for men and women hiding in burrows of fate amid great cities, looking for the souls of them to come out, so that you could see how they lived, and for what, and why they kept crawling so busily along the sandy way where water falls as the summer wanes. I have to say I am somewhat puzzled by this. Obviously, Theodore is a poet. As a boy, he hung out on the beach and watched crayfishes or crawfish as they moved across the shore. But it sounds like maybe we're supposed to imagine, war, since this was written, after World War I had started. But other than that, I do not fully understand what's going on with Theodore the poet. The Town Marshal. The Prohibitionists made me town marshal when the saloons were voted out, because when I was a drinking man before I joined the church, I killed a Swede at the sawmill near Maple Grove, and they wanted a terrible man, grim, righteous, strong, courageous, and a hater of saloons and drinkers, to keep law and order in the village, and they presented me with a loaded cane with which I struck Jack McGuire before he drew the gun with which he killed me. The Prohibitionists spent their money in vain to hang him, for in a dream I appeared to one of the 12 jurymen and told him the whole secret story. 14 years were enough for killing me. So here, the town marshal, we don't get a name. We find out that he was elected by the people who were in favor of prohibition. It sounds like, this is before prohibition is actually enacted. That happens later. But maybe in this town or this county, it may be a dry county. So he's the marshal, supposed to enforce law. He ends up actually getting killed while trying to do that. But he himself had killed someone, and he seems to want forgiveness and apparently appears as a vision to one of the jurors. Jack McGuire. They would have lynched me had I not been secretly hurried away to the jail at Peoria. And yet I was going peacefully home, carrying my jug, a little drunk, when Logan, the marshal, halted me, called me a drunken hound and shook me, and when I cursed him for it, struck me with that prohibition-loaded cane. All this before I shot him. They would have hanged me except for this. My lawyer, Kinsey Keene, was helping to land old Tom Rhodes for wrecking the bank, and the judge was a friend of Rhodes and wanted him to escape, and Kinsey offered to quit on Rhodes for 14 years for me. And the bargain was made. I served my time and learned to read and write. So here we get the other side of that, the Marshall story. The guy who killed him, Jack McGuire. We also find out that the name of the Marshal was Logan. But that he had a lawyer, whom we've already seen, Kinsey Keene, and that lawyer cut a deal with the judge for punishment of 14 years rather than for him to be hanged. And he would have been hanged in the town, but they spirited him away to Peoria, which would be quite some distance from Spoon River. So there we have Theodore the poet, the town marshal, and Jack McGuire.